Good Wednesday morning, and thanks for being with us here on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Alicia Lewis. There is movement this morning to end the Department of Homeland Security shutdown, but roadblocks are still ahead, with some lawmakers in both parties voicing frustrations about the Republicans' proposal. President Trump has yet to give his sign-off on it, and while Congress is working to reopen the department, frustrated travelers and unpaid TSA officers are left suffering the consequences. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Hi there. The Department of Homeland Security has gone without funding for 40 days now in a fight over immigration enforcement that spilled over to the nation's airports and ramped up the pressure to make a deal. This morning, hope to halt the insanity at crowded airports across the country.
It is very overwhelming right now.
As President Trump signals he's considering a Senate Republican plan to fund the Department of Homeland Security and restore TSA worker pay.
We're going to take a good hard look at it. I want to support Republicans.
The two-step proposal would fund all of DHS except for immigration enforcement under ICE, which Democrats are refusing to put more money into without major reforms. They have repeatedly sought to fund TSA and other agencies while negotiations continue.
Republicans have rejected it every time. I think now they may be open to it.
In step two, according to four sources familiar with negotiations, Republicans want to fully fund ICE through a separate reconciliation bill that doesn't require votes from Democrats, while also trying to pass limited parts of the Save America Act elections bill that President Trump has made his top priority, previously telling GOP lawmakers not to back anything that doesn't include it.
Don't make any deal on anything unless you include voter ID.
The potential shift comes amid mounting pressure from frustrated travelers, with ICE agents now tasked with helping to move security lines at some of the nation's busiest airports.
We can just pay the TSA workers and get those people to come back to do the job that they've been trained for.
All while questions remain about the ICE reforms Democrats have been holding out for.
Bottom line, reforms must make it into law.
As everyone looks for the end of the line. Leaders from the TSA, FEMA, and the Coast Guard testifying today on Capitol Hill about the impact of this shutdown, while union leaders press lawmakers not to leave for a recess set to begin Monday, not to board planes that TSA workers screened for free, as they put it, without coming to a solution. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And if you have a flight out of MSP Airport this morning, take a look at this. TSA wait times on the south end, you see less than 10 minutes. On the north side is even shorter with less than 5 minutes. Not bad. It's a big improvement, though, from the 45-minute wait we were seeing more than a few hours ago here. Airport officials say only 6% of TSA workers at MSP have called out, which is a big difference compared to the nearly 40% at Houston and 37% out of Atlanta. You can check wait times and your flight status at mspairport.com. We are live in Washington, D.C. right now, where a local boy is about to receive a huge honor. Victor Greenowalt was hailed a hero in the Annunciation Church shooting after saving his friend's life. Megan McPherson joins us from the newsroom with more on his story.
So today, Victor Greenowalt will receive the Young Hero Citizen Award from the Congressional Medal of Honor Society, one of just 6 civilians to be recognized this year. The society says Victor demonstrated extraordinary bravery for beyond his years and described his actions as a symbol of hope and humanity for a community in crisis. Now, you may remember just hours after the horrific shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church, Victor's friend, Weston Halsney, shared with Kare 11 how his life was saved. Not by chance, but by Victor, who used his body to shield Weston from the gunman. Weston underwent a successful surgery to remove a bullet fragment lodged in his neck. Victor was shot in the back and spent 2 days in the hospital before going home. The legislative package introduced in response to the shooting includes a proposed ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. A Senate committee advanced this proposal, but it has stalled in the Minnesota House, facing unified Republican opposition. GOP lawmakers say the focus should be on mental health and school security instead. Back to you.
Well, developing overnight in the war in Iran, we've learned Iran has received a 15-point plan from the U.S. on a possible ceasefire as more troops are heading to the Middle East. Now, Iran, though, is claiming that there's no peace talks ongoing with the U.S. and says that Washington is in no position to negotiate. Their military continued strikes overnight, including an attack that started a fire at the Kuwait International Airport. Well, right now, Minnesota is suing the U.S. Departments of Justice and Homeland Security for evidence released to 3 shootings in Minneapolis carried out by federal agents. The Hennepin County Attorney, Minnesota Attorney General, and BCA all filed the suits, saying that local agencies have the right to conduct their own investigations into the fatal shootings of Alex Pretty and Renee Good, and then the non-fatal shooting of Julio Sosa Solis. Federal officials have said they have jurisdiction because it involved federal agents. But state agencies are also investigating and say they've been shut out from key evidence.
There has to be an investigation anytime a federal agent or a state agent takes the life of a person in our community. And ultimately, the decision may be it was lawful. You don't know, but that's why you do the investigation.
The lawsuit was filed in Washington, D.C., and Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty and Attorney General Keith Ellison say the decisions regarding those investigations are going to be made there. Right now, a bill aimed at fighting fraud in Minnesota is heading to the Senate after weeks of gridlock. The legislation would create a new statewide office of Inspector General. The independent office would focus on detecting and preventing fraud in state programs, but it's not a done deal yet. Some Democrats have raised concerns about the language in the bill and the cost of the new agency. If it passes, Governor Tim Walz says he would sign it. Well, right now, a bizarre issue in northern Minnesota as St. Louis County figures out what to do with the centuries-old cemetery now eroding and exposing human remains. Scandia Cemetery in Duluth predates the neighboring Glensheen Mansion. A family visiting Glensheen first discovered human bones in the summer of 2024 on the beach just below the cemetery. Shortly before that, the cemetery's aging caretakers told the county that they were giving it up. The county commissioner says that leaves the cemetery in the hands of no one. St. Louis County says a $2.5 million retaining wall would be cheaper than relocating the graves. Last year, the county applied for a state grant to help, but they struck out. They're going to try for the grant again this year. New details today on the deadly crash between an Air Canada plane and a fire truck at New York's LaGuardia Airport. Federal investigators say a safety system meant to warn of runway dangers never went off before the plane hit the truck, killing both the pilots. Now, they say it could be because the fire truck did not have a transponder. But investigators are looking at the potential of multiple failures that led to the tragedy.
There are multiple layers of defense built in to prevent an accident. So when something goes wrong, that means many things went wrong.
If this truck would have had a transponder, it very well could have provided that alert that the controller could have used.
Investigators are now looking into why the truck was crossing the runway and whether air traffic controllers may have been distracted by another emergency just before the crash. Well, get ready for sticker shock when you see your license tab fees. They're likely going up even if you drive an older vehicle. And that's because of a law passed in 2023 raising the tax rate and dramatically slowing down the rate of depreciation for Minnesota vehicles. That law says a new vehicle only loses 10% of its value in 3 years, even though Kelley Blue Book says the average new car depreciates 30% in 3 years. State Republicans are now trying to undo that change, saying that the state is taxing people more than what their car is even worth. Right now, some parents in the state's largest school district are saying enough is enough. They're fighting back against layoffs and a looming budget deficit across the Anoka-Hennepin School District. They started a new group called Parents for Good, a nonprofit that in part supports a levy to try and write a deficit of nearly $6 million next year. The district is also laying off 75 staff members. It's a contentious issue board members have disagreed on even at Monday's meeting.
We can decide to have high quality schools. We can choose to fund our schools. It's our choice. And I think that we've been made to feel like that choice isn't really ours.
There is a state law requiring a school board take up a levy if voters get enough people to petition for one, although it's an approach that is rarely used. Well, Target is tightening its dress code for staff as the company is trying to reinforce its in-store brand. According to Bloomberg, Target will be stricter on its red shirts, saying that similar colors like pink and maroon will no longer be acceptable. They're also limiting big logos and requiring khaki or blue denim bottoms. The changes take effect this summer. Well, stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.